Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. Happy Friday, December 12th. Today, I want to talk about carrying the message of recovery in how we live and talk a little bit about emotional sobriety, our daily practice, and spiritual practice, living by example, the difference between reacting and responding. It's been an interesting past 24 hours. I don't know. Every 24 hours is different, right? I was talking yesterday about how it's a gift. It is. It's like every day I get in line to buy a ticket for this roller coaster called my life. Oh, hold on. I need to discipline Boris real quick. Boris, no, leave it. Okay. He has a tendency to like to lick Autumn. And it starts to get a little creepy, if you know what I'm saying. So I got to stop it before it starts. Okay. So the invisible side of recovery. I think that recovery, a lot of people look at recovery in the beginning as like, you got to stop whatever behavior it is, whether it's drinking, whether it's some sort of mental health, whether it's, recovery from stroke, and you've got to do the physical side, the physical recovery, but there's this invisible side to recovery, and that's what I talk a lot about. And that's why I feel like this podcast, although I talk a lot about sobriety, it's because that program taught me how to manage me on the inside, manage my emotions, manage my impulses, and manage my interactions, my responses with people, turning the reactions into responses. So today's meeting, we talked about emotional hangovers, and those can be just as scary and cause these kinds of like panic attacks as like the physical withdrawal, the physical hangover. Recovery is a way of life. Recovery is it's waking up every day and making a decision that I'm going to practice the tools of my program and live this new lifestyle. It's a lot of like inner reflection, even when I'm dealing with the physical symptoms that I have, because if if I can manage the emotional symptoms, it dissipates the physical symptoms slightly for me. And I'll take what I can get because I live every day with chronic pain in my head. I have this weird vision thing going on where you know how if you start getting stressed out or you're feel like you're starting to have like a panic attack, it can affect your vision and you can almost start feeling a little dizzy. That's the feeling that I have all the time. So if I get a little stressed out, it just exacerbates that problem. So a lot of my recovery is focused on the feelings that I hold on to or learn to let go of. So I don't have in sobriety, I don't have as much guilt, shame, anxiety, but I still have overthinking. And if I can manage that overthinking, then I can stop guilt, shame, and anxiety before it sets in. But that's really hard. That's really hard. So I like to come here and talk about all of those thoughts. And a lot of people ask me, how do you have something to talk about every day? because I'm an overthinker. And I can pick a topic and I can think the shit out of it. Really. Because I if I don't talk about it out loud, it will start affecting me physically. So I just wanted to acknowledge like what that daily recovery looks like and why I feel that this podcast really can apply to anybody at all because everybody is in some sort of recovery from something that has happened in your life. And I like to talk about what work we can do, what tools we can use to prevent that emotional residue day after day from stacking up. So, what what I heard this morning, and I was really excited to recognize this morning that the I go to meetings every single day, and that ability to go and listen to the same stories over and over again in the big book and all the other literature, to hear the stuff over and over again, it is really relearning the tool each time I hear it again and being able to apply it to whatever's happening at that moment in my life allows me to practice it from another angle. So we talked about daily inventory and spot checks today. And I'm a huge fan of the spot checks. I'm a huge fan of the daily inventory. And when I'm reminded of it, oh yeah, you need to start looking back at your day and think about your interactions with people. And today I have a lot less interactions with people than I used to, but I think how mine has shifted a little bit is where could I have nurtured a relationship a little better? What it used to be when I was working was more like, okay, where did I screw up? Where did I possibly make somebody feel bad? Or how could something that I have said or how I said it, more importantly, how could that have been misconstrued and I may have hurt somebody's feelings or something like that? And unfortunately, and I've talked about it before, I can come across as kind of a bitch sometimes. So my boss helped me to recognize how I can come across that way sometimes, and so I became a lot more self-aware and being able to think, you know what, I said I said this, but what was I thinking when I said it? Because whatever I'm thinking when I say something, it comes through. And that's where like that bitchiness, the edge comes on when I talk to people. So I've become a lot more self-aware of that. But now that I don't talk to a lot of people like naturally throughout the day, just because I'm not working, I like to think about where can I where can I reach out to other people for them? Like, have I called my mom this week? Have I don't know, have I reached out to this friend or that friend? Have I talked to my kids on the phone any time recently? If not, pick up the phone and call them. Like, I try to use my daily inventory to think about how I can be a better human being, a better mom, a better daughter, a better sister. So this tool helps build awareness around these relationships before regret has any chance to arrive in my life. I try to catch myself quickly and clean up ahead of time rather than afterwards, and my relationships seem to be much better from that. Um, I I had a question from a loved one yesterday, and the question was, when you were drinking, were you easier to anger? And my response was, yes, yes, of course I was. When I was drinking, I was more defensive, I was more impulsive, and I was unable to regulate my emotions. So, yes, I was quick to anger. And in sobriety, it's just what naturally happens when you put alcohol in your body. It takes away the inhibitions and it allows me to react more quickly without like those snap reactions, without providing like a sober response. So in sobriety, and I had to learn this. It wasn't like I stopped drinking and all of a sudden I was able to pause, breathe, reflect, and choose a response. It didn't work like that. I needed to learn how to pause. Um, that's hard. It's a hard thing to do because I think when I am in charge of creating the silence, creating the space, and in a moment, it feels uncomfortable. Like I feel like somebody's waiting for me to talk. And that's not the case necessarily. What I learned when I was working was that the longer that it takes me to respond, if I pause, not only pause, but actually take a breath, then people are more interested in what I'm about to say because I took a lot more time to put my words together. So even though sobriety may have not initially improved my emotional response to people, places, and things, sobriety gave me access to understand, it gave me access to the options, to better options of what to do in my relationships, better options about, okay, well, you don't have to all of a sudden get defensive because somebody said something to you right now that hurt your feelings. Like you don't have to react, you don't have to respond. You don't have to say a word. You can sit there for a minute and think about how you want to respond. And only I can only do that in sobriety. I cannot reasonably think through my emotions when I've been drinking. So sobriety naturally gives me the gift of tolerance. And it it allows me to lower my expectations. Is that right? I don't know if that's going to come across right, but um, not expect other people to be perfect when I'm not even perfect. You know, how can I expect other people to always say the right things to me when I really struggle to say the right things to other people? I overthink how I'm going to respond to life. How could I possibly expect other people to always know the right thing to say to me? Um, Tolerance is a superpower, like restraint of pen and tongue, and it comes with having compassion. I think tolerance is compassion in action. I got to let go of my need to try to fix other people, let go of my need to settle my discomfort, like sit in the discomfort, sit in the silence. Let people have their own journey while I stay on my path. I don't have to get in their bus and they don't have to get in mine. Um, Peace and serenity comes when I stop trying to manage everyone else's behavior, and I can just look at what's right in front of me and what's inside of me. That's all I can control is what's within my fingertips. And there's something so freeing about that when I'm able to just put my hands up, like I say a lot, put my hands up and just be like, okay, life, just do whatever it is that you're gonna do. And and I'm gonna sit back and trust that I have the tools that I need when life meets me at a certain place, and I can think about it. And if I don't respond correctly, quote unquote, I mean, is there really a correct way of responding? It's just a choice. Everything's a choice. But if I repeat that over time, um, it deepens my understanding of myself. Like as life evolves and I'm able to just sit back and let life happen and let people do whatever it is that they need to do. And I just sit back and keep hearing the basics every day in my meetings, talk about it in my podcast. Um, I keep working those fundamentals. And so I know, I just kind of trust that I'm going to know how to handle things when they approach me. Another thing that my second meeting was about this morning was about carrying the message, and I realized very quickly that when my loved one asked me yesterday about were you easy to anger when you drank, I realized this morning that that's what I was doing. I was carrying the message. I wasn't saying, oh, if you get angry when you drink, you're an alcoholic. I didn't say that. But what I did talk about was just what I learned about myself when I stopped drinking. I learned that I have patience, more patience. I learned that I'm able to respond to things instead of react. I learned that I have a lot more willingness to admit that I'm wrong. I even mentioned maybe you should tell, because this person said that they had gotten in an argument and got really defensive. And I said, well, maybe you can go back to that person that you had the argument with and say, I think you might have been right. You were right. There's a lot, there's something that happens when we go to somebody and say, you were right. I don't know what it is, but for me, when I can tell somebody you were right, it like uh, my humility like grows another root. So I like to do it. It's hard. It's hard to say you were right, but I would rather be happy than be right. And when I'm able to admit that somebody else was right, my serenity just gets a little deeper. Like it's just like I'm thinking of a garden, really. Like when I'm able to do this thing, it's like sowing my garden. My behavior is really often the clearest message of my recovery, how I carry myself. And I heard that this morning. Carrying the message is happens in so many different ways, and a lot of that is how I carry myself, like being an illustrated example of what the message is, like living the message, how I live and how I maintain my sobriety is carrying the message. When I have somebody ask me, were you easy to anger when you drank? That person, the simple fact that that person said, looked at me as somebody that might have something wise about the topic to share means that I am a living example of the message. And I don't need to preach what the message is. I just need to practice it. I just need to share my experience. And when I share my experience, if I'm living the program, if I'm living the principles of the program, when I share my experience, then my strength and hope follows. So I want to show all the time that healing is possible in sobriety and also in stroke recovery. The the thing that I feel like when somebody says, "What are your deficits from your stroke?" They're wondering what my physical deficits are. And you guys know what they are. But what I really want to talk about is what my emotional deficits are, because it was a traumatic event for me. It was traumatic. It wasn't just one traumatic event. The stroke set off multiple traumatic events. And a big one for me is having to leave my job. Last night was the Christmas party for my old company, and I am really grateful that I was able to receive some pictures from some of my coworkers, my ex-coworkers, and it makes me happy to know that they're still doing it. They're still doing the holiday party and all of that. But every year when I get those pictures, I get really sad. I get really sad because I still have emotional, this hole in my heart, and it just hasn't been filled. There's so much that I miss. I miss being able to talk to people every day and to laugh every day. I used to go in and it was my goal every day to go in there and make people smile, to be the energetic, positive person in the room. Because I guess because my department was the marketing department, and I felt like it was my part of my job to be upbeat and positive and a good communicator. So I loved to do that, to nurture my relationships, and being in sobriety and being in that role just worked so well together. Today, I don't get to deliver that message in the way that I used to. I demonstrate it, but I demonstrate it differently now. Thanks for showing up, and I hope to talk to you tomorrow. I'm trying to get back on the everyday train. So that's my goal, is to show up for you, for me tomorrow as well. I'll talk to you later.